بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الله نور السماوات والأرض مثل نوره كمشكاة فيها مصباح.
That's what Mishkah is all about. So we're going to be talking about an experience that Mishkah embarked on in 2011 with a pilot program that was a combination of an AP style and dual enrollment style combined program tested out, where students started in 9th grade and went 9th, 10th, 11th, and 12th, 4 years of a higher education Islamic studies program, and ended up receiving an AA degree in Sharia at the end. So this was piloted in Minneapolis, Minnesota. We'll talk about that, and then we'll talk about strengths, weaknesses, things that we are still working on, things that are working very well, how many schools, how many students, so on and so forth, and the curriculum, of course, right? So we'll be looking at that as well. As far as the background is concerned, Mishkah is a purely online university, but it didn't start as an online university. It started as an on-site university in the mid-90s, and this is the kind of 4.0. This is the 4th generation of the university. It is called Mishkah right now, and it's actually incorporated in Florida here. So in 2004. I always like to start with a mission statement. You're all in Islamic schools here, and if we're not doing something under the mission statement, we need to let it go, right? If it's not immediately under the umbrella of the mission statement, we need to let it go. So it's an online global provider. Global means we have students anywhere from Australia and New Zealand, and you go around the globe and you get back to Australia and New Zealand. Probably some of the countries that we don't have students in are like, never had students in, like North Korea, for example. They're busy doing other things. Japan, they don't seem to be interested in Mishkah. But we go as far east as China, and then we have many students from Europe, we have students in Africa, Asia, of course, South America not so much, North America, Canada, and the United States with the largest number of students. We provide undergraduate and graduate studies in Arabic and English. We look at the programs, inshallah, in a little bit. We recognize Fadilat Dr. Sheikh Salah Sawi. He is the founder of the university, and the reason why we tend to explain or tend to mention who is the founder is for people, this is Islamic studies. When we talk about authenticity, when we talk about a balanced curriculum, we have to look at the philosophy and where this came from. So philosophically, or fiqh-wise and fatawa-wise, if you have heard Fadilat Dr. Salah Sawi, then you would understand what I'm saying about the balance, especially not just the balance, but also the understanding of the West. And when we talk about fatwa, we talk about fatwa that apply in the West. They don't apply in the East, right? So in order for our students to connect with Islamic studies, we have to be able to speak to them from a perspective that is from the West. If we say, no, I'm gonna have you do this and that and only do what we know about in the Middle East or in the East, they're not gonna connect. So the connection has to be done from the West here, based on what they know. That's why the West there at the end is very important. And this is all about positive civil discourse. So training the students to be functional, good Muslims in the West. All right, some of the goals, we have visions, I think, the vision statement right there, I mentioned it. So we have multiple goals. Some of them have to do with the dissemination of an authentic Islamic knowledge that is based on the principles of Ahlul Sunnah wal Jama'ah. Okay, so we all talk about Ahlul Sunnah Jama'ah. We're talking about the middle ground, right? We're not going to the right, we're not going to the left, we stay in the middle, centrist view of things. And basically there's a lot of training of imams, training of, we have an example of a sister who takes classes with us. She doesn't take the classes for herself. She homeschools 7 children. And she sets up tables and chairs, and she has her children watch and follow the mashayikh who are teaching courses through her account. And this is her homeschooling environment that she created. So she has adopted our curriculum to actually teach her students Islamic studies. It's not just about Islamic studies, it's also about Arabic, it's about Quran. So we have courses in Arabic, we have courses in Quran. As a matter of fact, we have authored 9 series of 9 books in Arabic that take students from the most beginning all the way to the balagha of the Quran. Yani that extension, everything in the middle, everything in between. Question is, when we talk about Arabic, what do we talk about? Do we have the mission to teach Arabic for muhadatha, or are we teaching Arabic for Quran and Quranic understanding? This program is about Quranic understanding. So it's infused with Islamic studies knowledge, and it's to teach students the classical Arabic so that they can understand a minimum of 80% of the Quran and 80% of the rest of the Islamic classical books. Conduct and supervise research. This is something that we're constantly working on, but we're not there yet. Create awareness of Islam through positive civil discourse. So, who knows Omar Sulaiman? Sheikh Omar Sulaiman was with us. He was preparing courses and studying under Dr. Hatem Al-Hajj. Who knows about Sheikh Muhammad Shinawi? All right, so a couple of years from now, inshallah, you'll hear about him. He's on that route, inshallah. Mashallah, he's one of our students. And we'll see some of the mashayikh that we have that teach, inshallah. All right, so why Mishkah? Oh, for now, let's stop here for a second and open that informal aspect of things. What type of, how many of you deal with high schoolers? Okay, different schools, you're working with high schoolers. Okay, what Islamic studies program do you use for high school? Is it a series of books?
It's learning Islam.
I'm sorry? Learning Islam?
Yeah.
Learning Islam? Okay, learning Islam, yes. The series, I Love Islam, Understanding Islam, and Learning Islam.
These are customized books that selected by our teachers.
Okay, customized books. Okay, very good.
When I work with high schoolers, I'm dealing with them with student council.
Okay.
So I deal with them as for different, different programs that they do throughout with MIST, different programs.
Okay, sister? But it's a series of books, right? Okay. Let me ask you this. Do you have a list of standards that you go by? How do you gauge what the students learn? And I'm not going to get into the curriculum because I always get drawn to the curriculum, but I won't. I was just doing this for 6 straight hours yesterday.
Yeah, I know that in our school, we recently started in 11th grade.
Okay.
So I know the teacher, he was struggling with coming up with the standards which is aligned with the objectives and everything. So this is the area that we need help with, and I remember in the last meeting we were talking about that. So he tried to, I'm not sure because I'm not an Islamic studies teacher, so I'm not sure, but he found something, or maybe he created something on his own, I'm not sure about that.
Okay.
But I know that this is something that we are struggling with, and we are looking for different resources where we can see how, what are we doing in our classroom is aligned with the standards.
Okay.
Yes.
And just to confirm, the same thing with us. I mean, I'm not an Islamic studies teacher, but along, from elementary to high schoolers, this is one of the issues that the Islamic studies teachers face, is because right now we're trying, every time we have to submit lesson plans, or they have to, of course, we have to mention what standard it's covering, but they're having a lot of issues to finding the standards.
So, Brother Habib Qadri from Chicago worked on with a group of educators on coming up with a list of standards, and those standards, I believe, they sell them or they have them available. You may have access to them, and that might be a good start for elementary and middle school. What?
I'm sorry, what's the name?
You just have to look it up. It's
The name of
Islamic
it.
Studies, Habib Qadri.
Okay, also, that reminded me, one of the gentlemen who was talking about the school program, he said that, if anyone of you have heard him, that they have introduced a new program, student information system.
Okay.
And inside that system, they have created some standards which are aligned. I'm not sure what type of alignment, with the state standards, or they have created their own, and they have that added in their student information system.
I don't
where
wanna-
the teachers can go and see and align the standards.
So, I have a problem when, and I don't want to badmouth the brother, but I have a problem as an educator when I see a student information system get into curriculum development. It's like a fisherman is selling red meat, right? They know how to fish to get the fish, and they don't know how to sell red meat. You tell them, give me which part is best for kebabs. Fish. It's not. Well, each one is going to be doing their own job. But we'll get back to the curriculum, and I'll talk about certain things that might help you. But the idea here is that this is a program that is comprehensive in nature. It covers all of the aspects of Islamic studies over the 4 years without you having to worry about any component of it. Besides one thing, obviously, we'll talk about how your teachers have to be trained to be able to teach. And that's another big component. So we'll continue here. Very experienced Islamic higher education institution in the United States. It's been there since the mid-90s. As we said, the online program started in 2004. Authenticity and how comprehensive is the program is really one of the strengths of it. Some of these mashayikh you may know, actually a couple of them are current principals of Islamic schools. Some of them have doctorates in education, and also have all of these mashayikh have degrees from the East, but they have lived in the West. And what we're doing now is we're hiring more and more of the younger generation that are native English speakers. All right. Is this, just to be clear, is this, are your students going to be interacting with these mashayikh? No. All right, this is where I have to, make sure that we don't get confused. What happened here is that this is a program for online students who pay to take the online courses. What we do is we take your instructor, if they don't have enough background in Islamic studies, if they have a degree in Islamic studies, that's great. If they don't, what we do is we get them into the system. They start learning and taking courses, and then they teach those courses. So the instructors deal with our mashayikh, your teacher deals with our mashayikh, and your students deal with your teacher. Alright, so we don't bring these mashayikh into the classroom. We provide you with the resources, both the mashayikh and our online library, for your instructor or your teacher, and that teacher gets trained. So what we're coming in to do is we provide you in a nutshell. If I'm going to walk outside after what I'm going to say now, just remember these two things. One, we provide you with a comprehensive curriculum. Two, we provide you with training for your teacher to learn how to teach Islamic studies. They basically have to complete courses ideally complete a 4-year degree with us to be able to be a good Islamic studies teacher.
4 years.
Yeah, 4 years to get a bachelor's degree
Islamic.
in Islamic studies in English. Okay?
So,
So in a nutshell, that's it. Now we're going to go into the details of it. Any questions so far? Yes, sir.
Now, let's say, for example, does the teacher start instructing while he's taking the classes, or he has to finish and then do the instructions?
Good point. They should, I'm going to say they have to complete the course before they teach. Because we tried it, and this is one of the things that, this is why we're doing this, right? So I'll tell you, what happens to answer your question is, if the teacher does not have a minimum of a 2-year degree in Islamic studies, diploma, okay, and have not completed the course, they do a very poor job teaching the course. Because remember, this is higher education. It's like sending your child to HCC to take a course, right? The expectation, even though HCC is a little bit more mellow than USF, right? If you take calculus at USF, it'll be a little bit harder than if you took it at HCC. In this case, these courses require a lot. If you take a fiqh course, right? You get into the madhab and you understand this madhab and this madhab and this madhab and how they interact and why this madhab said this and why that madhab said that. For a 10th grader, if you don't have a good teacher to teach, then they're not going to be able to learn. Right? Yes, sir.
Yeah, you touched upon it already, but what focus of fit that you have in this program?
Very good question. Can I ticket that to the side and come back to it?
Yes.
So I'll talk about that after I introduce the courses, because there is a method to the madness. We'll talk about that.
Okay, separate question. What is the prerequisite for the teacher to get your training? What are the prerequisites the teacher should have even to get your training card?
So we start with the first thing, the requirement. We do an interview for you. So Mishkah does the interview of the Islamic studies teacher. You have a teacher and you want to get our help. If you are part of our program, we will interview your teacher. Now, one of the first questions as far as their academic background is do you have a 4-year degree from an Islamic studies institution? Yes or no? If yes, that's great. Move on. That means that they are capable of teaching our courses if they've taken it. If they have a 2-year degree, the question is, do you have a 2-year degree? If they have a 2-year degree, then the introductory courses will be relatively simple. They can start and they have to continue to take courses with us to complete a 4-year degree. If the brother or sister are just good brothers and sisters, they don't have any education, they just picked up some books and read, that's when we start raising some red flags with the administration and say that we believe that this teacher should not be teaching unless they start doing some program under our mashayikh and start studying. Okay? Now, the fiqh point, I'm gonna come back to it because that's a very important point. We get asked this all the time. We go all around the states, and it's a very important point to cover from an academic, from an educational perspective. The Arabic programs are pretty much, and this is an Azhari curriculum. So whatever is taught at Al-Azhar, that curriculum is what we provide. In Arabic, again, you may have Arabic focused, you may have English focused. We all know that Islamic schools in the United States teach Islamic studies in English. However, if you have an Arabic speaking sheikh or brother who teaches Islamic studies, they may be more comfortable learning in Arabic, and they may have a 4-year degree and want to get a master's, right? But what we tend to do is we tend to have most of our instructors go into the English side of things, right? So Islamic studies in English. By the way, for anybody who's interested, this is a side note that doesn't apply to this presentation, but it's a lot of people, especially of Arabic speaking background, who have had a professional secular degree and want to study Islamic studies, we have created something like the MBA, where you may be an engineer and you want to get an MBA, so you have to take a certain amount of courses and then you get into the MBA. Our way into Islamic studies is through the Masters of Islamic culture. So you come into that Islamic culture as a master's. When you complete that master's, you can go to a PhD in Sharia. So you kind of not skip, but you skip a lot of the courses that you would have had to take for 4 years, right? To get the basics. They are all incorporated into the master's and PhD program.
Dr. So another question is it self-paced when you say 4-year degree, or they have to be with you like for 4 years, or they can excel just on their own pace?
It is self-paced. If you can take 1 course, you can take 2 courses, you can take 4 courses. You can finish in 4 years, you can finish in 8, you can finish in 10.
And can you finish in 2 or 3?
Possible. 3 possible, 2 not really. Because we have to, the courses that we offer have to, they have to fill in with students. We have about 120 students on a semester basis. We have over 1,000 students when we consider Arabic, Quran, and Islamic studies. But for the degree seeking, it's about 120, 130. Yes.
One more question. Do you have like a kind of transfer credit or job experience credit? If somebody's teaching Islamic studies for so long, but you really didn't sit with the shape to get formal credit?
Very good point. So I'll come from the end
Okay.
of this. No. I'll say this. It's all about accreditation. We're seeking accreditation. We're supposed to apply by the end of this year. So we can't do equivalency
Okay.
and then let it by through accreditation, because the system is not there to support that.
Okay.
Okay, so here it is. This is a program. I have a video, you can actually check it out online, of the graduation in Minneapolis. So I said this program started, it's an Islamic high school students associate's degree that goes through the 4 years. And a lot of information is on the website. Check mishkah.com and you'll find that information. This program started in 2011, as I said. And through that piloting with the Minneapolis, Minnesota Al-Amal School, we were able to complete, the students were able to complete, 19 students were able to complete the entire 2-year degree in 4. Okay? So for you, for a Hifd Academy example, or a Quran-based school, once the student memorizes the Quran, what do they end up doing? Usually they just go to another school, right? They completed the Quran, so they completed the goal. This program would help retain students. In this school, 20 students started this program. 19 of them completed the program at the end, after 4 years. Alhamdulillah. So there is a very good, and we see it, and we are seeing it in multiple other schools. All right? This school specifically was working on phase 3 of building, and they used Mishkah as their primary fundraising tool by saying that we are different from all the other Islamic schools around us. We provide this program where no other school provides. All right, and there's still the unique premier school in Minneapolis that offers this program. The dual enrollment program provides a rigorous, and this is highlighted, this is not the Islamic studies that we're used to in Islamic schools. All right? Yalla addi. From 1st grade حتى 11th grade, we are hashing the same thing. Right? Seerah is the same thing. The plays, they are the same. Hajj, we go around Hajj. The same thing. 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th grade, we're doing the same things. No. This is college level education. So the prerequisite for it is that students would have a solid understanding of the basics of Islam in all of the categories. Right? So the book of Tahara, they should have an understanding. They should know how to make wudu. They should know what's the difference between a regular water wudu and tayammum, and how to do tayammum and ghusl, and all of these things that we teach. We have to make sure that they know them very well. Right? Salat, Siyam, Al-Ahkam, all of that. When they get into this, it takes them to the next level. It explains to them. It's like what I like to use the analogy of math. So students learn, arithmetics, blah, 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 geometry, algebra, pre-algebra, algebra 1, algebra 2. They get to the calculus and they still don't know why this is used. And then they get the calls and they take differential equations, and then they're actually solving problems of things that are moving, hitting things, stretching, doing all kinds of things. They understand how to explain them with math. This is the analogy here. So the idea here is they take in the depth of Islamic studies that allows them to understand why things are done the way they are done. All right? How did the information reach us from Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam? Right? What are the meanings of the ayat in a way that ties with the ahkam or the fatawa, or how to behave in certain environments, or why do we have to behave in that environment? So the why comes into play. Yes, ma'am.
So does Mishkah administer a formal assessment to see where the student is?
Can that one please from me? I'll get to that one. So I have two now. I'm not going to remember. I have the. I'm not going to forget, inshallah. Two different things. I'll talk about that, inshallah. So recognize a student's academic achievement by awarding credits. Now, how are the credits awarded? That's going to be after we talk about the curriculum. The purpose, we talked about the purpose, okay? So, we understand that, here we go, the evaluation there of the final exam. Now, when we started piloting, I'll give you the history, because it's important, right? Where we started and where we ended, there is progress. There's a lot of thought that was put into it to make it work. When we started, it was a final exam for 100% of the grade, with a minimum requirement of 80%. If you don't get at least 80%, you don't get the credit. And it's a final exam and it's a done deal. All right? Obviously, that wasn't going to work. So, by the way, Sister Rula is here with us. She was a trooper, administrators, and alhamdulillah, we were working with the schools to try to find a happy medium with assessment. And where we reached was the school is going to be responsible for their own assessments throughout the year or throughout that course. What we do at the end is ask them, give us your final grade for each student. We multiply that by 60%. And our final exam counts for 40%. Okay? Now there is a caveat here. The student has to achieve a minimum of 70% or more in our exam to be given the credit. The final grade, if they received 70% or more, is averaged 60% from the school, 40% from the final exam. Make sense? Is that any question about that? Because that's what we're using today, and that's what we most likely will continue to use, because that gives a balance. It's not 90% from the school, because accreditation will come and says, well, what kind of control do you have over this? You're just handing out credits because the school says so. We have to have balance. Any questions?
To enroll into the Mishkah, you have like you have a certain level like bachelor or half year or just
To teach for your school?
no to get to apply to
To apply? No. To apply to become a student?
yeah
To be a student.
for the bachelor for
Okay. To get certified as an Islamic studies teacher, for example, to get a 4-year degree or something like that. You don't have to have you can be a beginner. But you have to have some understanding of Islam, right? Or you have to be willing to work extremely hard. We have a lot of converts that study with us, and the beginning is difficult, especially if they don't have Arabic as a mother tongue. right? They struggle, right? But alhamdulillah, many of them, it's where you struggle, you have to put more effort. When you put more effort, you're able to achieve, right? Okay, so how does it work? I talked about this. Your teachers get trained by us, take courses with us, are guided by us, are followed. Sister Rula is like a hawk. And if you are an administrator, she's helping you. Because she follows up, she requires that they send their lesson plans. Their lesson plans get reviewed by us. Make sure that they are following, they are doing what we are expecting them to do. Alright? Following up on testing. When are you going to be testing? Because we have to coordinate, right? You have a final exam test that they have to take, final exam that they have to take. That has to be coordinated with our semester. Okay? With the leeway, sometimes you're like 1 month late is fine because you're having certain things going on, so we try to work with you to make sure. But not teaching one course over 2 semesters. We'll see the flow, the course flow in a little. And we are constantly following up behind. This is an example of a student giving a presentation. This is a project-based learning environment in one of our participating schools. So the teacher at the Islamic school follows the course flow. We're going to look at that course flow and how it looks like. The instructor uses Mishkah's extensive written documentation as well as audio-visual library that we have. So what kind of information would your teacher from the Islamic schools get? We have an audiovisual library for every course. So every course is taught by one of our mashayikh, and that video is recorded and is there for the instructor or for your teacher to view. Okay? They have the books that we use. And they have presentations sometimes. Some of our courses have PowerPoint presentations that are ready, that they can adopt. As a matter of fact, one of the things that we require besides the lesson plans as a proof that they're teaching is a PowerPoint presentation for every class that they teach. So that has to be sent, and Sister Rula follows up with that. Any questions so far? Based on what I said, yes?
So basically the class is taught in the school itself, but
Yes.
and the teacher from the school, but she has to be certified or under Mishkah?
He or she gets the curriculum from us, and we follow up with them to make sure if they have the credentials. If they don't have the credentials, we have to make them take our courses. Okay? And we'll talk about costs and things like that later. So, Sister Rula is your coordinator. She follows up, as I said. The instructor has the freedom, we said, quizzes, exams, project-based, whatever they want to teach. We don't come and mess with your philosophy, basically, right? If you are an IB school, if you are an AP school, if you are a school that does exams or tests or whatever certain ways, if you are theme-based, whatever you're doing, we do not come, and what we tell you is, here's the course, this material, the content has to be covered, the skills have to be covered, okay? And you can test them whichever way you would like. 60% of that, that will count as 60%, okay? The final exam is given online by Mishkah, and this is where the AP analogy comes into play, right? So AP, you can take the course, and your students have this choice, right? Even though we don't like this choice, but they have this choice. They can take the course and not test the final exam at the end. You give them your grade at school. By the way, the 60-40 only counts for us. Your school can decide to forego the 40% and only give the grades that you want to give. We don't interfere with that. We don't tell you, no. We take 60-40 and you have to take the same thing. I want to see it in your report card. No, you do whatever you want with your report card and with your students. You want to give them all hundreds, give them all hundreds.
But why?
Huh?
Why not give you guys such a fair grade for it's supposed to?
What do you mean?
I mean, why should we change the grade?
You don't have to. But some schools are finicky about that. They're like, oh, your 40% is not fair. Our parents are raising the roof, right? This is no, we can't. This is some schools have certain mentalities where all students have to get A's.
Great inflation,
Huh?
Great inflation.
Everything is inflating, brother. The grades are too, right? So that's the AP idea. They take the test, they get the credit. They don't take the test, they don't get the credit, right? Still, they can take the material. Okay? All right. This is one video I'd like to play. I don't know if the audio.
In the beginning, it's very important to understand.
So this is one of the introductory videos for a course by Sheikh Dr. Muhammad Salah.
Our series on fiqh of worship and
Dr. Hatim Haj.
started with fiqh of purification.
Retaliation can be
This is Dr. Muhammad Abdel Fattah from Egypt. He teaches in Al-Azhar.
will be explained in a single or an independent chapter.
The first lecture is about the history of the sciences of the Quran.
After the death of the Prophet ﷺ, stayed in earth to reveal and guide the Muslims.
Today we're starting the tafsir of Surah Al-Nur, which is a Madani surah, was revealed in Medina.
Going to be a very special class. It's going to be a class that, although it's an elective,
Dr. Sheikh Omar Sulaiman developed the Tazkiyah 1 and Tazkiyah 2 courses.
Another political reason.
Dr. Ahmed Qubaisi is a specialist in Aqidah. So he teaches our Aqidah and history courses.
And the Muslim Empire was expanding.
Sheikh Zidane, this is a little bit too soft voice. So those are videos, series of videos that are recorded. Notice that some of the older videos have some of our mashayikh who teach Al-Azhar with a relatively heavy Egyptian accent, okay? And we're moving away from that. We have newer recordings that are being established with native speakers so that the students can, the instructors can interact with those. By the way, a question. Can my teacher at the school use these videos with the students? Absolutely. We give your teacher an account, and that account is used. Now, should you as an administrator or as a teacher, should you as an administrator allow the teacher to sit down in the back and display the videos? What is the teacher doing? Right? That's not the idea. But some videos are good to share directly like that, right? So we have to strike a balance there. I'm going to skip this one. This is live sessions with a learning management system. We moved away from that learning management system into a better one. So it's not as relevant. We use a tool that has been used in MOOC. You know, what does MOOC stand for? M-O-O-C. Massive online courses. So when you have these large courses that are offered for free. So one of the tools that we use allows us actually to have a very good balance between the audio visuals that are there and the documentation that we have. And it allows our teachers or our instructors to teach using the LMS. And here we start with the curriculum. So this is the curriculum flow from 9th to 12th grade. Now, question. Why do we have those 4 courses in the first year? Why specifically Tazkiyah 1, manners, then Da'wah, methodology and practices, then history of rightly guided conduct? You thought I was going to talk only? Not fair. You have to talk too. Yes.
This is like an introduction. It will be much easier than going into fiqh, aqidah.
Very good.
So it'll be easier to accept first. Once we get it, then we go to aqidah.
So we know there is something that happens between 9th and 10th grade, right? But I shouldn't say her name. She's recording me. But one of our previous students will tell you that in 9th grade things are a little bit fuzzy. Boys and girls are just acting silly and not able to focus enough, but around 10th grade things starts happening. They start focusing a little bit better. So that's when we start introducing Aqidah. Also, we tried Aqidah in 9th grade and it didn't work. Right? So this mapping has been done through experience and through testing things out. And this is really one of the best ways we have seen working or work for a 9th through 12th grade. If you don't want to use, if you decide not to do Mishkah or don't want to get anywhere near Mishkah, use that process, right? If you're going to teach courses like that in high school, use it in that way, right? Because this has been done over 7 years of experience, gives us that ability to say that this works, okay? Now, some questions should be coming because there were 2 courses per semester. Now in the spring of the 10th grade, there are 3 courses that have to be taught. So fire away, especially administrators. How in the world are we going to do this? 3 full courses. It's like going to HCC and taking 3 courses, right? And you have to teach them within the hours that you have. So let me ask you, how many Islamic studies periods do you have at your school? Twice a week for 50 minutes, 45 minutes?
45 minutes.
Okay.
Total time we have less than 2 hours.
Less than 2 hours, okay? Same thing?
Twice a week, 15 minutes.
Twice a week, 15 minutes. Okay. So let me ask you this question. I'm going to start getting in trouble now. How come you have history taught 5 times a week and Islamic studies, which is a social studies course, taught twice a week?
The other schools like Sira and Islamic study, we can get it together to like one subject, Islamic study, because they are not allowed to get one more subject.
Okay.
So this is in Bayan at least.
Okay. Well, this is the deal. You cannot teach 3 courses with 2 periods. You can teach 2 courses with 2 periods, barely. 1 course for sure per semester. And in schools like that, what we tell them is, do not take the route of the complete AA degree. Take the certification route. And this is another route that came after experience. We experienced this and found that some schools don't have the amount of hours. They don't have the number of hours to be able to complete 64 credits, right? So what they end up having to do is choose, and we give them at the end, we'll work with them to choose a number of courses that they can complete over 4 hours with 2 periods, and then we give them a stamp on a certificate that says this certifies that the student so-and-so has learned the fundamentals of Islamic studies, or something of that nature. Okay? Now, there are a couple of good things at the end that you're going to see. And there are only 2 semesters, by the way. 2 semesters where they have to take 3 courses. The rest of the semesters are 2 course. Okay? So, Aqidah 2, Fiqh 2, Authority of Sunnah, Fiqh Family, and Fiqh of Financial Transactions. There's another Fiqh of Financial Transaction afterwards. One of the very important courses that we are very proud of is the Refuting Misconceptions about Islam. And this course, notice, is given the last semester of 12th grade, before they go to college. And what we focus on is our mashayikh focus specifically on the trouble that we're going through today with loss of faith, complete loss of faith of our kids. So we talk about the specifications, certain questions like why, what was the age of the wife of our beloved Prophet ﷺ, Aisha? when he married, and what is the surrounding culture of that time, and why we go in depth into those things, right? And we also hit them with certain comparative philosophical theories, so that they recognize the pitfalls when they come in and somebody's talking to them about Nietzsche and about, some of these theories, especially if they decide to take a course in philosophy in college. So that's a very important course. So far we have 51 credits. I said 64, right? So where does the...
Dr. Sullivan, just one question related.
Yeah.
You just mentioned, of course, maybe the problem in our Islamic community, we don't get moving away. But if you're waiting until the 12th grade, and this problem start actually 10th grade onward, probably even 9th.
Yeah.
And by the time you can wait, it will be by lose out.
Very good point. However, remember, we are hitting these kids from 9th grade with very in-depth knowledge. And hopefully their teachers are equipped to be able to work with them all throughout the 4 years, right? Again, the idea from the premise, from the beginning, from the 9th grade, we are not repeating the same thing that they've been doing over the last 8 years. We are going into a newer phase of in-depth Islamic studies, in-depth knowledge. At this point, I'd like to answer your question about the fiqh, and then I'll go to the next question. So, the fiqh teaching starts with one madhab, which is the madhab al-madhab al-hanbali, to teach the basics of fiqh. And this is a decision that was made because of the in-depth knowledge of the mashayikh that developed the curriculum. However, as they go through the first couple or few fiqh courses, the transition into the four madhab and the comparative understanding of the four madhab kicks in. And the reasoning being is, if you're introducing a 10th grader to an in-depth fiqh course, you want to teach them a methodology of one madhab, and then say, okay, so now you understand the methodology that is similar in the other madhab. However, now we provide you with commentaries on those books from different perspectives. So madhab al-hanbali says this, madhab shafi'i says this. This is why the Malikiyya says this, and then they talk about examples of najasa, for example. Malikiyya, out of the 4, says that the dog does not have the level of najas as the other 3. And then there is an understanding of what is the backing, where does that come from? What tools and what evidence did the Madhab Maliki take to be able to reach this? So we're talking about methodologies taught to be able to, they're not going to turn out to be fuqaha, far away from that, but they have the background and the basic understanding. Yes, yes,
So
ma'am.
when you're referring to the semester that has the 3 courses, and you're saying as long as it's taught within the school day, does Mishkah have any input in regards to whether I can offer the 3rd course, maybe like an after school, like when we do like a hip program, or on a Saturday, or is that free for all for me to decide?
It is very difficult. We found that it could be covered in the summer. It's very difficult to be covered after school. It really, what has been working is during school hours. Now, this is the good news here. There are courses like, if the students, these are for students who are seeking the AA diploma only. We work with the schools to provide them with Arabic 1, they take it. As long as the student took at least 2 years of Arabic education in that Islamic school, and the department, the Quran department, is responsible for those courses. So those courses will not go under the Islamic studies, right? Quranic sciences, Quran memorization and tajweed, by the way, which leads, at the end of this program, we test your students and they have to prove that they have memorized at least Juz' Am. At least. It's a joke for a Hifz Academy, because that's not the purpose, right? But for other schools where this Quran is not, Hifz is not the focus, there has to be a minimum, because these kids are going to turn out to have an AA degree. They're going to get out there and they're going to be imams, right? They're going to be leading. If they don't know at least one juz' with proper tilawa, of course, we use Nuraniya as a tool if they have learned Nuraniya, and then they get tested, of course, at the end. All right, successful pilot. This is a video of we traveled to award the students their degrees. This is what is important to administrators and parents. All right, so if you can see the cost, the total cost of the program per student for 4 years is $1,170.
4 years?
Yes, for 4 years, ma'am. Yes, that's it. That's it. And schools come to us and say, please give us 50%, 25%. No, we're not potato sellers. This is the deal, and that's for 64 credits, okay? This is heavily discounted from our online student. So if somebody wants to take online, it doesn't work. By the way, and guess what? Your instructors take courses for free. Am I saying this correctly?
They can audit the class.
Yes.
If it's offered, that's.
So if they want the credit, they have to pay for the course. If they just want to teach it, they don't want the credit. They want to learn it, they can take the course for free. Auditing.
What about course by course cost? If they,
Online?
yes, if they don't complete the whole 40.
Student or teacher?
No, students.
Student, so the student is semester by semester. You pay $190 per semester, and then $50 for all examinations.
For each semester you can take how many credits?
I'm sorry? As many credits as you want. It's not per credit. If you decide to say, hey, I'm going to become the Islamic Studies Islamic school, not the Hifz Quran school, for example. I want to focus on Islamic studies and I'm going to teach 5 courses per semester. You take 5 courses for the same cost.
And your courses are synchronous or asynchronous? Or how is it?
So, for your teacher, if they're taking course with us, it's synchronous and asynchronous. They have to meet with mashayikh once a week, and they have material they have to do on their own. That because talaqi for Quranic education, Islamic education, if you're not taking it from the sheikh, you're not taking, this is not the algebra, right? We have to learn from mashayikh. That's why I put the pictures of the mashayikh. All right, so this is our participating schools, okay? So the numbers vary between as little as, you know, starting 13 and 14 students in one grade to up to 100 students in New York in Al-Ahsan Academy. We have the growth, which looks like this. You see, 2011, 2015, 1 school. Okay, and then we went up to 8 schools last year. All right, so this looks like a linear or a power curve. We like to call it the power curve. We're very excited about 2020. We hope to have more than 13, 14 schools, inshallah. 5 minutes. I got 8 slides. I'm going to zip through them, inshallah. Strengths. So, how rigorous college level this curriculum is, also how comprehensive this curriculum is. I guarantee you, and I don't work for Mishkah, like I'm not an employee of Mishkah. I'm advocating for Mishkah. I do get paid by Mishkah to do certain things. This is a disclaimer. So I am definitely pro Mishkah, but I'm talking about certain things that I'm telling you do not exist elsewhere. You cannot find as comprehensive a program as this. It provides Islamic studies teachers support. I'm telling you, when I was working as an administrator, the least of our problems, the least of our focuses was Islamic studies department. Not because we did not care about Islamic studies, because we did not have time. Because we're always running after Arabic and Quran. And you know, the Islamic studies always gets left behind. That is why we are pushing for this. Because this is a solution that helps Islamic schools and especially administrators, because they need that support and we provide that support. Alleviate the principal's load or heads of departments loads with that support. The variety of options with whether degree seeking, non-degree seeking, certification based, or audit. You have one of those three options that you can have. In addition to Islamic Studies, Arabic and Quran courses that are available there to increase the students' knowledge. Areas for improvement. What are we still working on? Because nobody's perfect, and because we have a lot of problems we have to figure. This is not an easy job, okay? Couple of things. Communication, obviously, with administrators and teachers. We are constantly going after, but then there are so many fires that need to be put off in schools, and administrators don't have the time, and the teacher is not following up, so we're trying to follow up with the teacher. Synchronization of modules and courses with your semester and our semester, right? Sometimes it's just, we are almost in the middle of the summer and we have not gotten grades yet, and the exam has not been taken yet, right? Those are issues that we're trying to resolve. Alignment of the final exam with the material covered. This is one of the biggest problems that schools are having today with our curriculum. All right? The exam and what the teacher is teaching, you know, the material is there, the exam is not aligned very well. So we're working extremely hard to align those exams. This is a big problem, and inshallah it's being fixed very soon. Alignment of the final exam, we talked about that. Alignment of stakeholders' expectations. Right? In this particular school, they like the program, but we don't want this hardcore Islamic studies. We want light core. Okay? Not hardcore, light core. Something like where we can still allow cousins to kiss each other on the cheek if they're boys and girls. We can do this. It's okay for that. Brother, what is this? You're telling me that my son cannot do this, cannot do that. Right? So we are in the business of teaching Islamic studies. If one of the stakeholders is not aligned with that, right, then Jazakumullah khair, thank you very much. You go find a light core program. Accreditation for credit recognition is something that we are aiming for big time. I am done. What is this? Yeah, we talked about this, educating the educator, right? So we have certification program. Listen to this one, because it's very important if you're an administrator. We certify teachers in Islamic studies, we certify teachers in Quran, and we certify teachers in Arabic.
The Arabic, how long it takes?
It's
the same thing like
it's actual based. No. The certifications are much shorter. Shorter, right?
Quran Ijaza and everything.
Yeah, Quran Ijaza, we have 10 qira'at. Sheikh al-Ma'sarawi is the one who... You don't get tested by your sheikh, by the way, or sheikha. Sisters have a sheikha and then brothers have sheikh. Sheikh al-Ma'sarawi with the team on top tests that student to make sure that there is an authentication of that certificate. Right? Because we have seen some issues with the certifications. The person gets certified, khalas, 29 to the Prophet ﷺ, and then he stands up and read, and then he doesn't read very well, right? Because there's a little bit of a, yalla brother, it's okay, let me pass, you know. Okay, that's it. Those are the complementary things. Educator are there. Oh, by the way, that's the Arabic, PCTAFL. For non-Arab speakers, you can get certified to teach. This is even the person who's not certified, it's $1,800 is the cost. That lady there is the golden source for anything you need to know about this program. Sister Rula, please stand up. Okay. There we go. So the contact information is right there. You can write it down or talk to her, inshallah. Any questions? I am done, so we can chit-chat until they come and pick us up. Huh?